We see very disturbing trends all around us. These are trends, by the way, that conservatives warned about before the election. We said very emphatically that bad things would happen if Biden was elected. Bad things would happen if the Democrats maintained a grip on both houses of Congress. That what we would see is not merely an expansion of the centralized state, not just economic confiscation, higher tax rates, more regulation, a kind of stifling of the economy, but we would see encroachment into civil liberties, greater and greater threats to basic rights, free speech, freedom of religion, now even due process. We would also begin to see an attack on our basic institutions, an effort to weaken institutions that provide any kind of resistance to the state, and coordinate the other institutions of the state, of society, the media, academia, Hollywood, but even an effort to whip the corporate sector into line, sports teams into line. The aggression of the left seems to know no bounds. You think they would be content with saying, well, listen, we got the universities, we got Hollywood, what do we care about the NFL or the skating team? But they do care. They want to establish this harmony across the whole society. Now, the Nazis had a term for this, Gleichschaltung, coordination. And we see, I think, in the left today, some strong hints of not Nazism, but fascism. And yet that term is so highly contested. We've got this group, Antifa, anti-fascists, so they're branding themselves as fighting fascism, and yet you have to look around there. Where are the fascists that they are fighting? So what do these terms even mean? What is fascism? Now, when I get into this with various pundits on social media, you have people like the historian Kevin Cruz, Dinesh, you don't understand fascism at all. Well, this is a guy who's written a book about white flight in Atlanta, busing patterns in Atlanta. What does he know about fascism? Not a lot. And so I figured, why not bring on the podcast someone who is a preeminent authority on fascism, and also, as it happens, a preeminent authority on the Spanish Civil War. That's the second issue that's really important today. Is the dividedness of America going to be healed, or is it going to continue? Is it going to get worse? And how much worse? Is the radicalization of the left going to lead to a radicalization on the right? Are both sides going to become increasingly intemperate, violent? Are both sides going to try to do to each other the same sorts of things that they shut the other side down, shut them up, contract or compress their civil liberties? Now, Professor Stanley Payne is now retired. He's the emeritus professor of history at the University of Wisconsin at Madison, where he taught from 1968 till he retired in 2005. He's written a number of really important books. I have one right here that I brought with me. It's called A History of Fascism, 1914 to 19, just one of several books on fascism. And he's written a whole bunch of books on the Spanish Civil War. So here's a guy who really knows what he's talking about, who has sort of, you may say, lived through it, seen it up close, and has had a career of writing about these things in a way that has brought him worldwide recognition. So I'm delighted to invite Stanley Payne to come on this podcast and speak for the whole hour, in which we get into some of the basic concepts of fascism, National Socialism first, but then I'm going to ask him to apply those concepts directly to what we see in America, the rising tide of censorship, the mobilization of the woke corporations, the physical violence that we see on the streets, the amassing of a centralized sort of Leviathan state, the mobilization of police agencies of government against opponents. All of these are very disturbing trends, but what do they mean and where are they leading? I think it's going to be a great show. I'm looking forward to it. When we come back, I'll be joined by Professor Stanley Payne, an authority on civil war and an authority on fascism.